Lawmakers pushed through bills in response to the deadly July floods.
No parent should ever have to outlive their child or endure this kind of loss.
And with families of the victims watching, the governor signs them into law.
I don't like that my daughter had to die for this to take place, but I don't ever want any other innocent child to die while they're at summer camp.
The changes to protect children and what comes next for camps in Texas. A new test coming for students statewide.
We're just going to measure growth. We're on a pathway to measure growth in the first in the country way.
But there's still controversy over plans to replace the STAR exam.
In fact, it quadruples the amount of tests now required by the state for our kids in public schools.
We look at what the testing plan will mean for students and why some people are pushing back. Big changes are underway for the Texas Lottery. As a new agency takes over, we look at how the transition could affect people who play the games.
Produced from the Capitol in Austin and airing statewide, this is the award-winning State of Texas.
Hello, and thank you for joining us. I'm Josh Hinkle. Lawmakers ended the second special session after a rush of late-night action at the Capitol. That included final passage of a series of bills in response to the deadly July floods. One poignant moment came when the Texas Senate passed House Bill 1, which seeks to improve emergency planning at camps. Senators all stood up for the vote in honor of the 27 girls who died when the flood hit Camp Mystic in Kerr County. On Friday, family members of many of those girls were at the governor's mansion as Greg Abbott signed the flood response legislation into law. We spoke with one of those families. Capitol correspondent Adam Schwager brings us a closer look.
She was the glue of our family. I thought of her as my best friend.
When Callie and Michael McCown dropped their daughter Linny off at Camp Mystic this summer, they had no idea it would be their last time seeing her.
She was very excited. She said she knew she was going to get homesick, but she knew that there would be people there that took care of her.
In the overnight hours of July 4th, floodwaters swept through the campground.
I got a phone call and all it said was, Linny is unaccounted for, and I remember I fell to the ground.
The McCowns believe their daughter's death could have been preventable. And on Friday, Governor Greg Abbott signed a pair of bills intended to address youth camp safety, including measures such as making sure no cabins are built within the floodplains of rushing water, that all camps have emergency evacuation plans and annual drills, and that all camps have weather radios that include some form of emergency alert system.
The mandatory evacuations based on the National Weather Service severity warnings. If that was a private policy by the camp, these kids would still be alive because at 1 o'clock, the National Weather Service elevated the severity of the flash flood warning.
The new laws will increase parental disclosure, giving them a place to file complaints for noncompliance, and creates mandatory evacuation sirens in flood-prone areas. For Linny McCowan and the rest of Heaven's 27, these measures are too late.
I don't like that my daughter had to die for this to take place, but I don't ever want any other innocent child to die while they're at summer camp, because it should be the safest place they are. And I don't want any other parent to ever have to suffer the way that we have suffered these past 2 months and will suffer for the rest of our lives.
For State of Texas, I'm Adam Schwager.
The governor also signed Senate Bill 3, which requires local governments in flood-prone areas to install outdoor sirens and warning systems. State grants will be provided to help pay for those systems. Before taking up flood bills on the last day of the special session, state lawmakers passed legislation to replace the standardized test taken by Texas students. It aims to replace the STAR test with 3 shorter tests during the beginning, middle, and end of the school year. Test scores would be made available to families in as little as 2 days. That's much faster than the current turnaround time. The legislation also calls for a committee of teachers to make sure test questions are grade level appropriate. Teachers and parents have long argued the STAR puts too much pressure on students, but there was division over how to replace the exam, and Democrats pushed back on the plan for more tests.
This bill impacts our children, and not in a good way. This bill increases, not reduces, the testing loads on our students. Instead of one STAR test, we'll have multiple, all supplied by TEA unless districts can afford third-party options like MAP.
During the debate, supporters argued the new system will give teachers and parents a better picture of where students might need help. The bill's backers also touted provisions to provide accountability in the development of the tests and the results.
They'll report to the legislature in 2027 on test development, and they'll report again to the legislature in 2029 on a new growth measure in A through F. This is the first time ever that TA has been required to report to this body in test development and in any change in indicators that involve our A through F system.
These new tests won't begin until the 2027-28 school year. How students score will affect those A through F ratings for schools. One big item did not get to the governor's desk: regulation on products containing hemp-derived THC. That's the compound in cannabis that creates the feeling of being high. Governor Abbott's initial special session call included a push to regulate products like drinks and gummies that contain THC. He vetoed a bill from the regular session that banned those products. Despite that, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick kept pushing for a ban, and in the special session, senators passed a bill almost identical to the one Abbott vetoed. That bill did not advance in the House. A push for compromise failed in the last hours of the special session, but on Friday, Governor Abbott told reporters that lawmakers could consider this again, saying, quote, "Something may be happening soon." Hope for Texans who are victims of violent crimes. The new state law aimed at clearing up backlogs after our investigation. A big change is drawing attention to the Texas lottery. We look closer at the transition and how it will affect people hoping to win the jackpot.